And Ty Englebright in studio this morning to talk about everything sports. It's the Sideline Report on your hometown radio station, WPKY, The Tiger. All right, we are standing up and shouting good morning. It's the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times leader, Ty Englebright, along with Todd Griffin. Good morning, man.
Good morning. I think it's another one of those big weeks in sports. We could just rewind the tape every week and spit it back out, but it is a big week in sports.
A huge week in sports, and I did not have the Cheers intro lined up this morning since we were dubbed the Cliff Clavins of sports.
You're Cliff Clavin, and I'm Cliff Clavin.
Hey, you know, we'll
not just sports. I can throw out some other crazy facts too.
I'm sure we probably could. But man, what a week and what a night last night over in Cadiz.
Oh, a big volleyball week for Caldwell County and Henderson County. Both of those teams have just plowed through the second region tournament. And the two teams will square off tonight at 7 o'clock in Cadiz for the second region championship and a trip to the state tournament. So pretty big deal going on there. And just looking at that game, Henderson County's won the last two regions. The Lady Colonels beat Caldwell County last year in the championship game over at University Heights Academy in Hopkinsville. So, you know, it kind of feels like it's almost Caldwell's turn. But Henderson County is still the number one ranked team in the region for a reason. Yeah,
it's been the last couple of years. I was talking to Sue Stone last night. We have quite a history with Henderson County.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a rivalry, especially in these. You know, we had our day back early on, but it's been kind of the other way now the past several years. So, but got a feeling, you know, our Tigers are peaking at the right time.
Well, these are the top two teams in the region since volleyball was started back in 2001.
Right.
Caldwell County actually got out of the gate pretty quick in that. Caldwell County has 4 regional championships under its belt, but none since 2011. Meanwhile, Henderson County is going for its third straight tonight. The Lady Colonels have won 4 of the last 5 and 5 overall, so a chance for Caldwell County to tie Henderson for the overall lead in the second region championships for volleyball. So
no better night to do it.
It's a big night, and I think the teams probably are a little more evenly matched this season than they have been the last few years, so that should really be a good match. And Caldwell County is playing well. Caldwell County has the second region player of the year in Carly Peak. Henderson County has some really good players. It's going to be a good match.
18 kills last night for Carly, I believe that's right.
In a three-set match.
A three-set match, yeah. I mean,
usually when you start seeing those great big stats, you think, well, the match went 5 sets and there was a lot of opportunities. But really, Caldwell County won that match against Hopkinsville 25-14, 25-14, and 25-12. Wow. So not a lot of opportunities, but she took advantage of them last night.
Big time. I mean, it was on fire. The whole team played really well as a team. They communicated out there. If you did not get a chance to go, we streamed it. You know, check out WPK Online. You can watch it. Really fun. I mean, it's just a great atmosphere. We encourage everybody to get over there tonight and watch these girls. And cheer them
absolutely.
on.
If you haven't seen a volleyball match this season, go tonight and watch because this will be the one you'll want to see. And we've talked before about how volleyball crowds are really vocal. You know, it's a fun atmosphere. So just imagine how much greater that would be if you could do that in front of a packed house.
No doubt about it. And it is a fun atmosphere. It's action-packed. It moves quick. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no time when you're streaming even put the score up. You have to just basically put the set score up because you don't have time to operate a scoreboard and do the action the whole time trying to stream it. So it's that quick.
Caldwell County 27-9 going into that match. I think it's the 12th straight year the Lady Tigers have hit 20 wins.
Wow.
Most of those, I think they're averaging 26, 27 wins a season over that time. So that's pretty impressive. When you look around and see that some schools have never had a 20-win season,
mm-hmm.
and the Lady Tigers have 20 of them, or 12 of them, and are averaging 25, 26, 27 wins during that time.
Yeah, last night after the game, Coach Courtner came up and talked to, about to lose my voice, talked to Sue Stone. And, of course, there's a great foundation laid there by Coach Stone.
Oh, absolutely.
With this program. But Daniel has done a fantastic job. Coach Courtner, J.J. Griggs, and the entire coaching staff with this group. And they've got them leveled out and playing and peaking right at the right time.
Yeah, the great thing about Daniel was he was an assistant and, just picked up everything that Sue knew.
Exactly.
And so he just kept that going. He's put his own wrinkle on a few things, but he's just kept right there. And Going back to the Player of the Year thing for Carly Peak, that's a really big deal because
Yes.
you know sometimes the Hendersons of the world get a little more publicity than the Caldwell Counties, but I think in volleyball everyone realizes that Caldwell County produces some good players, and the Kentucky Volleyball Coaches Association has named that award 10 times. Caldwell County has won 7 of those.
Yeah, that's something.
That's 7 times the Player of the Year in the second region has been from Caldwell County. You go back to Mandy Gray and Emily Meeks, Casey Stone. Jessie Stone won it twice. Katie Van Hoosier won it last year.
Yeah.
Carly this year. So that's a pretty good
Pretty
run.
impressive.
Now, the Coach of the Year this year was from Webster County. Rachel Heath did a good job over there and got them into the regional tournament. And, you know, they had a really good season. Took a set from Henderson, I believe, in the district tournament over there. But Caldwell County, looking at the Coach of the Year award the last 10 years, has won that 6 times. Daniel won it last year, and Sue Stone has 5 of those.
Wow.
So when you start talking about programs in the second region, Caldwell County is right there with anybody.
Yeah, I mean, and that begs the question, as we discussed last week. You know, we look around and go, it's Caldwell County. We're not, but there we are.
Right.
We're at the top.
Well, sometimes you're not supposed to compete with the bigger schools, but every now and then you can get a program if somebody is running it. And, you know, not only running the high school program, but Sue Stone put a lot of work into the youth program and developing players. And, you know, that continues today. And,
it does.
That's why there are so many players. When you look at the Lady Tigers and you have the second region Player of the Year in Carly Peak and one of the top players in the region in Taylor Whalen, and those are both seniors, you think, well, maybe they're going to take a step back next year. I don't think the Lady Tigers are going to take a step back anytime soon, because when you look at their lineup, they're playing 4 freshmen and a sophomore on a pretty regular basis. A lot of those kids start, so I think the program is in good shape for, you know, 3 or 4 years running, and there's probably younger kids behind that ready to step in behind this young group.
No doubt about it, and you can't say enough about those programs at the lower levels of the high school level to feed those players. And you're right. I mean, they're young, they're gaining experience, valuable experience as the season goes on. You know, these girls have come together, and it just makes them it just makes the future look bright.
Well, the volleyball program is a program and not a team. You know, that's
right.
Each year is a team, but Caldwell County has built a program, and you're not going to win the region every year. Other teams are going to have really good players. Henderson County has really good players. I stuck around last night and watched some of that Henderson County-Madisonville match, and Henderson, which is 24-14 now, ended up winning 27-25, 25-16, 25-20. But a lot of credit to – no, it wasn't easy. A lot of credit to Madisonville. I thought they played really well. Henderson just had a few more players and just a little bit better, but, you know, Madisonville made a good accounting of itself. Yeah. Certainly did not roll over against a team that, you know, everyone in the gym is thinking Henderson should win this game. But Madisonville actually had a 24-23 lead in that first set. And Hannah Watkins for Henderson, one of their top players, number 3, got a big kill. She's a junior, so she's going to be back next year. That tied it. Henderson ended up winning the last 2 points of the first set and won that. And, you know, if Madisonville could have got that first set, maybe sneaked out a win right there, who knows where that match may go after that. But I think that took some of the wind out of their sails to not get that first set. And they still played well, but Henderson County just a little too much. And the Hannah Watkins, her mom is a former head coach at Henderson, Anita Watkins. So she knows a lot about volleyball, a really good-looking player. I don't think she hits the ball quite as hard as Carly Peak does. I don't know if anybody does.
I noticed last night when Carly goes up to kill that thing, and you see her. I mean, you see that look. Yeah, nobody wants to stand underneath it. I mean, she always hits floor because nobody's wanting to dig that thing out.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the way of that. But Watkins is really accurate. I mean, she hits the ball hard, and she's really accurate, and she's really good around the net, and she made some plays when Henderson needed them. Their libero, Casey Tchaikovsky, has committed to St. Louis University, the first Division I.
I was going to say,
signee for Henderson.
We had a Division I signee on there.
So she's a senior, thank goodness, for the rest of the region. So she's going to be gone, but you know Henderson's going to continue to be good. They've built a good program. I think Caldwell County is going to continue to be good, and it's going to be up to the rest of the region to try to fit into that. I really thought as the year went along, the rest of the region was catching up a little bit. I thought the second region tournament would be a little tighter, but you go back and look at the scores, every match in the regional tournament has been 3-0. And, of course, Henderson has rolled through their side of the bracket. Caldwell County rolled through its side of the bracket. So this is really, in all fairness, this should be the regional championship game, and Henderson and Caldwell both took care of business and are there tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't Caldwell County last night came out, and, I mean, they really took care of business. There was a couple little runs that Hopkinsville had a few times, but they were squashed early, and there was no doubt of who was walking away last night. Well,
you go back to that first round win over Webster County, and you wondered if Caldwell County maybe would lose its focus a little bit because you're looking ahead to Henderson. The draw comes out, and the teams are on the opposite end of the brackets, which, you'd like to see. It doesn't always work out that way, but this time it did. And Webster County is kind of an upstart program. They're getting there, but they're not on the level of a Henderson or a Caldwell yet. But no, Caldwell County came out and scored the first 13 points of that match, won the first set 25-3, and Webster found its footing a little bit more in the second set, but the match was pretty much in hand the way Caldwell County started it and just took control of that match and said, we're not giving anybody a chance to take anything from us in this one.
Exactly. Well, they're playing impressively, and tonight it's just going to be, I mean, you want to see some good volleyball. I have a feeling that this will live up to everything we expected. I mean, two really, really good volleyball teams going at it, and it ought to be fun.
Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb and say tonight's match will not be 3-0.
No, I think you're probably right.
One way
or
another. I mean, I could see either team winning it. It's a toss-up, in my opinion.
I probably agree with you.
I thought going into last year's regional championship match that Henderson was a heavy favorite, and they ended up winning that 3-0, but all the sets were really tight, and Caldwell County actually had a chance in each set. I think the Lady Tigers led pretty late in every set and just couldn't finish it off, so we'll see if maybe this time around the Lady Tigers can, if they have a lead late, finish that set off, get the win, and maybe get that fifth second region championship.
Yeah, and I got a feeling, I saw the Henderson team watching Caldwell County before their match, and there was a look like, okay, if they pull this out, which they were well in hand, we're gonna have our hands full tomorrow night.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Kevin Patton's story from the Henderson Gleaner talking about the Henderson win last night. And one of the first comments, and I think it was a couple of times in the story, from Henderson players and coaches, Caldwell County is our big rival.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised to see that, but it's true. I mean, when you think about volleyball in the second region, again, those are programs 1 and programs 2, however you want to throw that out there. And so it was just interesting, though, to see the Henderson side admit that, hey, that's our big rival, and this is the way it should be, and this is for the championship.
Yeah, and as it should be. And I think those girls recognize that when they hit the court tonight, they're going to have to be. Everybody's going to have to be their best on whatever side, whatever team you're playing for. You're going to have to be your best to win it.
And that's the way it should be. You want to see two teams that are evenly matched get to the championship game. It's the two best teams. Let's see who can execute the best and win the match.
No doubt about it. We wish our Tigers luck tonight, and we just want you to bring it home. And folks, we can't stress enough. Take the short. It's not a bad drive at all. It's at 7:00 tonight.
7:00, and the winner goes to the state tournament, which is November 3rd through the 5th at Valley High School in Louisville. The second region has drawn the 7th region, which is one of the Louisville regions.
That's the Goliath, isn't it?
Well, their championship is tonight. It's Louisville Assumption and Sacred Heart. I think that will be a really good match. But when you look at Assumption's program, they've won state so many times, and I think they're ranked 2nd or 3rd in the nation.
Didn't you say they had like 15 or not?
Yeah,
they got a bunch
something
of D1
crazy.
players.
Yeah, they have about as many D1 players as Caldwell County has players.
Yeah.
So, but all those schools up in the Louisville area, the really good volleyball schools, are really good.
And they've been around a long time.
Yeah, they probably know each other. They probably play on club teams together. So that should be a good match. But Assumption is the team that you would assume would come out of that match. So
right.
We'll see how it goes.
Well,
But just getting to the state tournament
let's
is
make
its
it a
own
state.
reward.
That's
I mean,
exactly right.
And you get there, and whoever's on the other side, it's opportunity. That's all it is a big opportunity. Go out and show what you've got, and maybe a chance to shock the world.
And as a guy who follows sports, as I'm talking about me. I mean, I follow sports, but I don't follow the way you do. Anything can happen when you get on that court or that field. Anything can happen.
Oh, absolutely.
On any given night.
That's why we play.
That's why you play.
If you knew what was going to happen, there wouldn't be any reason to play the games. And
exactly right.
We've seen teams that had no business beating the other team come away with victories before. So you just have to get there and take your shot.
No doubt about it. Well, best of luck and to our Tigers, and head on out to see them tonight. Again, if you can't, we will be streaming it tonight. Internet service in there is a little sketchy. It worked okay last night, but you get little drops and some frames when you're streaming this stuff. But I'm up there in that booth up at the top above the bleachers, and hopefully it'll hold out tonight for our championship matches.
It should be a good match, and
it should be.
I'm excited for it. And like I said, that's just a big start to today. Big football game tomorrow here. We'll talk about that a little later with Mayfield coming in, and probably the game of the week in Western Kentucky in football. So go watch the volleyball team tonight. Go watch football tomorrow night. Don't worry about what the weather is. Dress appropriately. Get there. It's going to be a good game.
It's senior night.
It is senior night. They're going to honor the seniors before the game. Then just a humongous non-district game. It's you almost looked the whole season waiting for this Mayfield game. And like I said, we'll talk about football a little later, but just special shout-out to the volleyball team for the season they've had. It's fun to watch. They've had an incredible run, and hopefully they can get that one more win tonight at least to get that second region championship trophy and bring that back to Princeton.
Yeah, we certainly hope so, and can't wait for tonight. Can't wait for tonight. Where are we going now?
Well, thought we'd talk a little baseball. There might be some baseball games going on.
It's I love this time of year. I love fall baseball. Of course, I'm an old Braves guy, and it's been a long time there. But I don't care if you just love the game. It is just it's a little weird when you start the fall classic at 103 degrees for the first game. That's a little weird, but it is Los Angeles, and it's one of those rare years. But two pretty even teams for the most part, I think. I mean, you got the American League offensive team of the Astros. Dodgers, no slouch there, and the pitching, of course. Great starting pitching. We've seen that so far.
Well, and the temperature cooled down a little bit for Game 2. It was only like 95 when that game started. So
only 95.
The temperature's getting cooler out there. But it is a little weird because you're used to seeing, fall baseball is usually in New York or Detroit or someplace. It's cold, Chicago, whatever. But and I agree with you. I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan, and 90% plus of the games I watch in MLB are St. Louis Cardinals games. But I did get to catch a lot of the end of the World Series game last night, and that was just incredible.
I missed it. I fell asleep.
I picked the Astros before the series started to win it in 6. I kind of wish I'd have said in 7 now. I think it'd be great if the series went 7 games.
Yeah.
But baseball is a weird sport because it's like fantastic and it's awesome and awful at the same time because, nothing can be worse as a baseball fan than sitting there. It's almost excruciating sometimes because the pace of play is a little slower than other sports.
It is.
And you get a big game and everything's on the line. Every pitch matters. Every at-bat matters. And, I mean, as a baseball fan, you can just tense up in those situations.
You hang on every pitch.
And it's a 3 or 4 hour trip like that, and you're just by the time the game's over, you're a wreck. Even if your team wins, sometimes you're just emotionally spent.
You're exactly
but that's the fun thing about sports. I mean, if it wasn't that roller coaster ride of emotions, none of us would watch sports.
I agree.
Or play or anything. I mean, that's the whole pull.
We do it to ourselves, but man, there is nothing like. I would give anything if I would have made it through. But I mean, I get up pretty early, and I just 7th inning I was gone. But I thought, once the Dodgers went up 3-1, I was like, it's probably okay with the pitching. But
it looked like the Dodgers had won. Then it looked like the Astros had won. Then the Dodgers came back and tied it again, and you're like, well, what's going to happen in this game? But the Astros pulled it out. Then the Dodgers hit a home run in the bottom of the 11th. And I'm still not sure if the guy thought he had tied it or not, because he sure celebrated a lot for a guy who had just cut the lead to 1. But still, all of that was awesome.
Who was it that hit that dinger?
Oh, I can't remember. I knew you were going to ask.
No, that's all right.
It was late, and again, I'm not a big Los Angeles fan or Houston
fan,
but I was
early on in those late innings when Springer got up for the Astros, and he had such a great season, power season. I just knew he was going to play a role at some point, and he did. He ended up hitting the winning home run, did he?
Watching those bullpens blow leads after leads, I was like, I think I'm watching St. Louis Cardinals baseball all season. This is the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals blew enough games that they could have been in the playoffs, but
it was uncharacteristic. I know of the Dodger bullpen. That's been they haven't given up anything.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers were the best team in the National League all year.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could make an argument that the Astros were the best team in the American League.
No doubt about it.
Certainly, Cleveland had a heck of a run late. The Yankees put together a good season. I'm glad the Astros made the postseason, got to the World Series. I'd kind of like to see the Astros win it just because they've never won the World Series before. And, the Dodgers have had success. I actually grew up a bit of a Dodgers fan because when I was young, it seemed like the World Series every year was the Dodgers
and the Yankees.
or the Yankees.
I was kind of hoping for that one this year, but didn't get it.
So, if you weren't a Yankees fan, and I was never a Yankees fan, if anything, in that neck of the woods, I leaned more toward the Red Sox because growing up, I was a big Yastrzemski fan and Ted Williams, and you go back to those guys.
Me too.
And
Freddie Lynn and
Jim
Rice. Yeah.
I don't think Jim Rice is in the Hall of Fame yet, and I'm not sure why, but I digress.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
But I was glad to see the Astros and the Dodgers. I think it's going to be a heck of a series. I think the teams are evenly matched. The Astros, though, just seem to have that magic about them. They were down to the Yankees and came back and won those 2 games at home just to get to the World Series. And if there's a team of destiny in this Major League Baseball playoffs, it seems to me like it's the Astros.
I have a hard time with them being in the American League, though. Growing up watching baseball, I can't remember the year they went over to the American League. I know it had to do with expansion, but I have a hard time with that. It's weird seeing the Astros and the Dodgers playing in a World Series.
I tweeted when the Astros made it to the World Series that it's the first time 2 National League teams have met in the World Series since the Cardinals and Brewers in 1982.
That's exactly.
I'm not sure everybody got the joke, but
I got it.
It was supposed to be funny. Sometimes my funny things don't come across as hilarious.
No, it's great. But you're right. It seems last night that could have been a huge momentum shifter. Sometimes in a World Series you get a shift.
Oh yeah,
and boy, that could be it. Might not. The Dodgers might say no, but it's got to go to Houston now, and so we got 3 games there.
Well, in any other sport, you'd say Houston has the momentum.
Exactly.
After pulling that win out last night, but baseball is a different animal. In baseball, I've heard it said, momentum in baseball is today's starting pitcher. So things can change in a hurry in baseball. If a guy goes out there and throws a gem, tomorrow for the Dodgers or for the Astros, I mean, that really changes things. The game is really in the hand of whoever has the ball on the mound, and
especially this time of year.
Like I said, it's a little different in the sports world in that respect, that things can change so quickly, not just from game to game, but inning to inning and pitch to pitch even. I mean, how many times do you see a borderline call that would have been strike 3 call ball 4, and instead of being the 3rd out of the inning, next thing you know, a couple of hits and a big inning erupts, and you go back to that one pitch that changed everything. Just a matter of inches and one guy's interpretation of the strike zone.
Exactly. And since we're talking about baseball, I want to go back just a little bit. I meant to ask you last week. Some of those calls in the Cubs-Dodgers championship series, especially the one, I forgot the rule about blocking, the plate call where he was blocking. It was interference, basically.
Right.
Boy, that's a tough deal there. I'm not so sure. I mean, I get it, I guess, for the safety of the catcher, but man,
just the rules in general. Typically I'm kind of an old school sports fan.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the days when
you could just run over the guy.
If the catcher is going to block the plate, then you have a chance to run him over and knock the ball loose.
Yeah.
If you're the catcher and you don't want to get run over, don't stand in front of the plate.
Exactly.
To me it's pretty simple. But I do understand trying to clean up some things. The guys going into second base with their cleats up and taking guys out.
Yeah, I get that.
we want to clean it up, and you don't ever want to be at a game where somebody gets hurt. I mean, that's the absolute worst.
It is.
But yeah, I wish they would just go back and
there was a reversal of a pitch too.
Yeah,
a called strike 3, I think,
and check swings.
Yeah, and they threw Madden out because he went out and argued. Of course, and they took a directive from somebody, the third base guy down the line, I think, and I mean the home plate umpire is right there, and he then reversed the call.
Well, it gets back to one of my bigger gripes about instant replay in most sports. I'm fine with the idea of instant replay. I love that one team doesn't get cheated by just a horrendous call anymore, and not saying that the officiating is necessarily bad, but plays occur where the official doesn't get a good look. Things can happen on a baseball diamond where one official gets blocked out, the other officials are 100 feet away,
right?
Nobody sees it. You don't want somebody to win or lose a championship because an umpire guessed at a call.
No.
So I'm glad there's a mechanism in place to go back and correct those calls. But I really hate it when whatever sport it is, football or basketball or baseball, where they go back and they show the replay 25 times and you can't really tell, one angle looks like this, the other angle looks like that, and they start reversing calls on just, to me, suspect information, suspect video information, and they say that it's supposed to be indisputable, video evidence, and sometimes they change calls when it's clearly not indisputable. So I think the replay guy should get a couple of looks at it, and hey, if it's not wrong, if it's too close to call, let the guy on the field whose job it is to make the call, have the call, and let that stand. And
yeah. Well, I didn't mean to take us off on a tangent, but it just seems like, part of it is the rule changes of the game. There's almost nameless every time we're doing our show.
Oh, there's always some sirens going by.
There's something going by.
Well, and I don't know if you've kept up with the new commissioner, Rob Manfred, but he has some big plans, I think, in store for baseball. And this isn't even on my notes, but the pitch clock. Yeah. I don't know that I'm a big fan of the pitch clock. No. It happens in colleges.
I've heard about it, yeah.
It happens in the minors. You have 20 seconds to throw a pitch. To me, I can understand where that comes from. You want to speed up the game. But this is another case of if officials would just enforce the rules that are in place,
right,
it would speed the game up. And I don't know if you saw a story that came out several places a week or so ago about perhaps adding 2 teams to Major League Baseball. They've talked about putting a team in Portland and maybe giving Montreal the Expos back.
Wow.
The proposal that I saw, and I think this was just floated to kind of test the waters and see what everybody said, would take those 32 teams, form 4 8-team divisions, match them up more geographically. You'd go to a 156-game schedule instead of 162. Most of your games would be within your division, which would save on travel. And
exactly.
It's not really fair now sometimes when teams on the West Coast have to play East Coast teams and fly back and forth across the country. But it would be interesting because the Midwest division would be St. Louis, both Chicago teams, the Cubs and the White Sox, Colorado, Houston, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Texas. And part of me is intrigued by that. Part of me doesn't want to see them get away from the American League and the National League. But really right now, at one time, those were actually separate leagues.
Right, exactly.
The interleague play has become so common that we don't even think about it anymore. But there was a time where the American League played its schedule, had its own umpires, had its own league office. The National League had the same. Now it's all under one big umbrella, so really it's not it's not the American League and National League, it's the American Division and the National Division.
What about the rules, though, the designated hitter and that kind of stuff?
Well, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
As mostly a purist, I'm opposed to the designated hitter.
Oh, I am too.
To me, if you're going to have a designated hitter for one player, why not have a designated hitter for everybody? Football players used to go both ways. There was no substituting. You played offense, and when the other team got the ball, you played defense.
Right.
Well, now you have offensive players and defensive players. If you're going to be going down this road in baseball, well, have offensive players and 9 guys who bat, and defensive players, 9 guys who play on the field. I don't understand why we have one designated hitter. I've never understood. Yeah. Well, I understand it from a point of, hey, we've got a guy who can hit, but he can't do anything else, so here's a spot for him. But I don't understand the whole thought process behind let's have a designated hitter.
Yeah, and that to me as a purist, so to speak, sort of makes the game intriguing with the American League and the National League, because I kind of like when you get when you go to the American League part, you play their rules. When you play the National League part, you play their rules. So I don't know. It's pretty tough to say, but I'm more like you. I don't really like the designated hitter, but if it stays the same way, then I would like to see it. The American, but there won't be an American League. So
right. I mean, you would just have 4 divisions of 8 teams each, and like I said, I think you would have in that scenario.
Do you go with the American League rule, or do you go with the National League rules?
I think Major League Baseball would probably go with the designated hitter. I think you would.
Think they would?
I think that would be the rule that
blanket
rule that went out. I think that's the last thing to joining the 2 leagues and all rules is the fact that one team has the DH or one league has the DH, the other doesn't. So I think that's the last remaining hurdle to even out those teams. But
Dennis Stevens pops in and says no DH period.
Yeah, well,
thanks, Dennis.
I would vote for that,
but
I think Major League Baseball and the Players Union is going to go the other way because it's one more roster spot. You don't want to get rid of a roster spot. You don't want to chase off a guy. I think the guy that's usually mentioned is Edgar Martinez, at least from a few days back. Maybe maybe David Ortiz more recently as those guys who excelled in that designated hitter role, but as they got older, really would not have had a spot in the field to play.
Exactly, and it's real easy to just come off and hit when you got to be out there every inning and you're running and you're chasing down ball. No matter you might be a great athlete and in good shape, but it still takes a little bit out of you if you're just sitting on a bench and just warm up your swing and get up there and boom.
To me, being a baseball player is not the ability to hit a baseball; it's the ability to hit it, to field it, to throw it, to catch it. I mean, all those things. That's a baseball player. To have good speed on the bases, it all goes into it. So if you're going to take a spot and say, well, we've got this guy who can hit really well, so let's carve out a spot for him. I'm not really sure I understand the logic behind that. To be a baseball player, you should have to do all those things.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you on that.
But, there's other things. I was thinking about this while watching the game last night unfold in extra innings. The international tiebreaker rule has been thrown out there for baseball. If you watch the World Baseball Classic last spring, they played the 10th inning, I think, straight up. When the game went to the 11th inning, they put runners on first and second to start the inning, because the idea is you don't want to have these tremendously long games that go 20 or 25 innings or whatever. And I can kind of understand that in a scenario like, the World Baseball Classic. Again, though, me as mostly a purist, I don't want to see them tinker with the game. Now, high school softball.
It ain't over till it's over.
High school softball uses the international tiebreaker rule. And, again, when you have 2 really good pitchers, you can get a situation where you could play for a long time in some of those games. And so maybe that's good for the regular season. Maybe Major League Baseball will just put that rule in the regular season. I'm afraid they might put it in just, for everything. And
they're really tossing that one around.
Yeah, it's been discussed. So to me, it just kind of cheapens the game. I understand, especially during the regular season, if you get into a situation where you have a 22, 23, 24 inning game that you're really taxing a team's pitching staff. We've even seen them go to position players.
Yeah, pitching, yeah.
And so they're like, well, you've skewed the game when you do that. But I'm like, but that's part of it.
I'm with you.
Once you start changing, because you get into those games, I understand the team's arguments that, we ruin our pitching staff for one extra inning game. Well, we've really ruined it for that game and the next day and maybe the next day. I'm like, well, that's part of baseball,
Yeah, and they're pretty
play
rare.
It out.
They're pretty rare to go way up in there.
Right.
But we've seen 2 games. You've seen basically you get 2 games for the price of 1. They get up there in those 18, 20 inning games, but it's a rare thing.
But that's the beauty of baseball
is.
There's no clock out there telling you when the game's over. You can't get a lead and stall or run out the clock. You have to play it out. And again, from the purist standpoint, I'm not a big fan of that. But I think maybe at some point we will see that tiebreaker thing come into play, at least during regular season games, because they don't want the games to drag on for 5, 6, 7 hours. Whatever. So,
well, to me, if you don't have to make that long West Coast deal and you're just within your division,
oh yeah, maybe that could be
eliminate the tiebreaker.
one of the things, one of the
No.
one of the points that hey, we'll
I'll
do
go-
the 8 division or the 4 division things with 8 teams, and
I'll go
and
and argue.
not go with the tiebreaker.
There
But
you go.
yeah, there's a lot of things, and I'm sure you can make an argument for and against all these things. At one time, there was a 154 game schedule, and I'm sure everybody complained when they went to 162 that it would skew the records a little bit, and it has a little bit. If you went from 162 back to 156, like the proposal that was thrown out there had, again, you kind of skew some of the stats, but they do need to do something about the travel. I think the advantage of a 156 game schedule would be that everybody could have at least one off day per week, and they probably do need that because what happens a lot of times in Major League Baseball is you get a couple of rainouts. Well, you have to squeeze those games in later, and so you end up playing a road series, and then you have to fly someplace the next day for a one-off game, and then you have to fly across country to go play somebody else or go home to play.
That's pretty tough.
That's a pretty strenuous schedule. Now, at the same time, these guys get paid millions of dollars to go out and play baseball. So how difficult is it? I'd trade with them.
Oh, yeah. Put me in, Coach.
I'm ready to play.
No, you got it. That's awesome. Well, we'll just have to see how it goes. But,
But none of that's set in stone. I mean, I think all those things get floated just to kind of see the general reaction. But the new commissioner has, indicated that he's open to changing some things, and they want to bring baseball into the future, I guess. But I kind of like the way that baseball has always been. And to me, more than any other sport, baseball is that one thing that you can use to go back through the years. If you go back to the 1920s and look at those guys, more than any other sport, what they did translates to now. Every other sport has changed so much that you can't really compare across the generations. But in baseball, you can make that comparison a little bit.
Yeah, you can. That's what makes it so
if
great.
you brought Stan Musial or Ted Williams out there today, they'd be able to play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they would.
Take a basketball player from, say, the 1930s and put him in today's game, it's a different sport.
That's exactly
football is probably the same way.
Yeah.
Most sports are probably that way, but I think baseball, Ty Cobb could probably hit today. I mean, it would be a little different. The pitchers back then would still be your good pitchers. It might be a little different, but they might have to learn some new things. But it translates pretty well through the years.
I agree with you, and that's what makes it so special. It really does.
And we have a big baseball following here now because Caldwell County is a 2-time defending second region baseball champion, and probably has the team to beat in the second region again in the spring. So
it's gonna be fun.
So
I can't wait.
Going.
I mean, I can't wait. And hopefully it'll be here for we still have to get through some time and some more sports, but man, and basketball and stuff. But it's
you never know how seasons are going to shake out. But Caldwell County's won it the last 2 times. They've been to the state tournament twice in a row now. I think the Caldwell County baseball team of 2018 has a chance to be even better than the last 2. So that's exciting when you look at the depth of the pitching. I think the hitting will be a little better. The fielding may be just a little bit better. So that's exciting to think about that. You've got these 2 regional championships in your back pocket already, but you've got that one more. But it's baseball. I mean, anything can happen on a given day. You give one guy the ball to go pitch, and he throws a gem, and your season's over. But it's fun to think about.
No doubt about it. And can't wait. It's got to be fun.
It never ends.
It never ends.
And we're in a good spot. We've mentioned it before here in Caldwell County that a lot of high schools would give anything to have the success that Caldwell County has experienced and is experiencing right now. Sometimes we even take it for granted a little bit, but you have to take advantage of those situations when you have them. Not always going to be on the high, but right now Caldwell County is on a high point in a lot of sports and just trying to ride that as far as you can get it.
Well, I mean, you just look at our fall sports season, our successes, and all of them. I mean, we're postseasons and pushing the outside of the envelope to state tournaments, and it's just good stuff. And we're we have great coaching, we have great kids, we've got great, a great school district, the administration and everything that helps out, and and a whole community that supports these kids, and so it's great.
Girls soccer was second region runner-up to a very good Henderson County team. Henderson County actually lost the next game to Bowling Green, 2-0.
They got blanked.
So how good is Bowling Green? But
yeah, definitely.
But again, a great season. Anytime you're talking about a region championship or playing for a region championship, that's a great season.
No doubt.
And when you put yourself in position enough, you're going to win some of those. And again, some schools don't have those kind of championships. And so my thing is, never take that for granted that you're having that success. Acknowledge it, enjoy it. Sure, everybody wants to win the state championship and everything, but
that's a hard thing to do.
Those just don't come along every day.
No, they don't.
So to me, the region championship, to me, that's the big hurdle that I usually look for. And when you get to the state tournament, that's great. It's great to go want to win it. It's great to want to go play well. But to me, the state tournament is almost the reward for getting that regional championship.
Exactly. I would agree with you on that, sir. And at 9:45, let's take a break. We'll come back. And, boy, we've had a lot of good stuff to talk about. We got more good stuff to talk about. It's 9:45. You're listening to the Sideline Report here on your hometown radio station, WPKY. We'll be back after a few messages.
Have you or a loved one been discharged from the hospital but not quite recovered enough to go home? Caldwell Medical Center Swing Bed Program is the answer you are looking for. Caldwell Medical Center Swing Bed Program can help patients that are recovering from stroke, joint repair replacement, IV therapy, post-hospitalization pain management, wound or major surgery, acute physical or occupational therapy. Call 270-365-0300 to see if Caldwell Medical Center Swing Bed Program is right for you. Caldwell Medical Center, located 100 Medical Center Drive in Princeton.
Fall is in the air. Bonfires, football games, sweaters, everything pumpkin. But don't add a cold house to this list. Let McGregor Group service your heater before it gets too cold and you find yourself without heat. We cover everything from repairs, replacements to new installations. Call McGregor Group Heating and Air today at 270-896-5044 or come see us at 960 Varmint Trace Road here in Princeton. We are the company that you can take comfort in.
And we're back on the Sideline Report. And Todd, we'd be remiss if we did not mention Friday night. We had last Friday off. Time to gear back up, and it's a big one.
Oh, this is like the biggest game in Western Kentucky, one of the bigger games in the state.
I saw the tweet.
Mayfield comes here. Mayfield is ranked 3rd in Class 2A. Caldwell County is ranked 6th in Class 3A. Both teams are 8-1. Of course, Caldwell County is riding an 8-game winning streak. Mayfield's only loss was to Corbin, which is one of the top-rated teams in Class 3A in the state. So it's just going to be a big battle, and it's the 11th straight year the teams have met in the regular season finale. Mayfield is 7-3 in the previous 10 games, but there was the game at Tiger Stadium a couple of years ago that I think the final was 25-24. Mayfield kicked the field goal at the very end to win it.
Kicked it twice, didn't they, or something? They got lined up twice.
They actually got to. We put some time back on the clock so they could spike the ball and get the kickoff.
I can remember exactly how it went down.
If you ask a Caldwell County fan, Caldwell County got robbed. If you ask a Mayfield fan, obviously there was time left. So
of course.
So it just depends on, but you take that game away.
I was there.
There's been a couple of other games where Caldwell County has played really well in the first half and just couldn't finish it. So that 7-3 could easily be 6-4, 5-5, pretty even for the most part through the years. Mayfield's gotten them a couple of times pretty good, but I think those 3 wins in the last 10 years over Mayfield is probably the most that anybody has over Mayfield in that time, because Mayfield just doesn't give up many wins. So if you're a Caldwell County fan, that's something you can take a little pride in right there, in the fact that you've beaten Mayfield those 3 times.
No doubt about it. And Todd, you may think, you're crazy. Just like we're talking about the volleyball tonight, I think this game's a toss-up. I really do.
Well, and the weather is going to play
that's
a huge factor,
true.
I think, in Friday's game. Now, it would tickle me to death if the weatherman was wrong.
Me too.
And we didn't have a downpour during the whole game. What I'm hoping is maybe we get some rain earlier, maybe around game time. It starts to clear up a little bit, and so maybe we're not just standing there in the rain.
I think we got a good chance for that.
because the original extended forecast that I saw had today's weather tomorrow, and everything kept getting pushed up. So I'm hoping, that system gets here, gets through, and leaves its rain and moves on, and we get to play the football game.
Because a sloppy field is always just a variable that you just can't really. You don't know, but it usually is advantageous to someone to a team that can run the ball and hang on to it.
Well, and this game is so big, it doesn't mean anything as far as playoff seeding or anything. It's kind of a fun thing for the fans. Channel 6 will be here showing it. There'll be a great big audience. You want this game to be able to showcase both teams. You want both teams to put their best out there. Let's see which team is the best. Have a great game. Nobody get hurt. Both teams go into the playoffs after this game off of, just a big battle. And if the weather gets messy, then you kind of take some of that away.
You can't play your game. And sometimes your game plan changes.
Again, both teams have to play in the same weather, but as a fan, you just want to see both teams show out in this game. You want to see both teams on display. And I'm afraid if the weather is really bad, it takes some of that away.
No doubt about it. But it is senior night. We've got a great senior class of guys. Be their last regular season home game. There'll be some more games to play. Thank goodness.
Well, it's been a special season too. I mean, you go back, and I think when the season started, most of us thought maybe 7-3 might be the limit for this team during the regular season. Maybe if they stole the game, 8-2. Could even have seen a few other games go the other way. So, I mean, you never know. You go back and look at the season. That Christian County game to start the season was asking a lot out of an offense for Caldwell County that had a lot to replace and had a lot of younger kids out there. But the schedule really didn't get much easier. You had Graves County and then Hopkinsville, and all those teams were good. Henderson County, the Tigers just kept improving and found a way to win those games. And as we've mentioned a bunch on our show, the Tigers used those games to get better and better. And I think if you go back and look at that Christian County game where Caldwell was and look at where Caldwell is now, it's a completely different team.
It's night and day. And, boy, I tell you, this season has been a progression of just fun of watching this team mature, come into its own, watching the offense, a few little offensive changes. I think everybody talks the big offensive changes when they put Jameer back there to run the ball. Not taking away from any of our other backs, but it just sort of changed the dynamic of the offense, I think.
He's just a little quicker back there than anybody else, and that just added a little more to the offense. Caldwell County's running game actually hasn't quite gotten going this year to the point that I think they would like it to, but you look at the numbers, and sometimes that too gets skewed a little bit because the Caldwell running game, I think, also includes a lot of those screen passes. It goes down as passing yardage, and so you look at the passing yardage, and there's 2,000 yards on the season. And I think a lot of people, you see comments on message boards and stuff that Caldwell's a pass-happy offense, or they just want to throw the football.
The screens are basically runs.
Yeah, the screens are basically long handoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, so, and if you go back and look at the numbers, Caldwell County is pretty typically 50-50 on runs and passes.
Yeah.
So it's not quite as pass-happy as some people make it out to be. It's not the old, hey, let's chuck it 50 or 60 times. It's not the Hallam Mummy offense. It's
mummy ball.
It's not just stand back there and throw the ball, but they do put it in the air. And like I said, those screens are basically just handoffs. It's just a long handoff. And so I think the Tigers are a little more balanced than some people, give them credit for being sometimes.
I would say so. And what's neat about this team and watching this team is that on any given night, whether it's on defense or offense, somebody steps up and makes plays, and it might not be the same kid every week. We've seen all kinds. It's spread around, and you just never know who's going to step up and have the big night.
Well, and we give the offense so much credit, and they've come along and played really well. Sometimes you forget that the defense has played really well. I think the defense is the reason they beat Graves County. I think the defense is a lot of the reason they beat Hopkinsville.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
I think the offense had its turn in that game at Henderson when the Tiger defense was having a little trouble stopping Henderson's run game. The offense stepped up and made some plays, and Caldwell outscored them 42-28 that night. So there's more than one way to win a football game, and sometimes you need everybody doing their thing the best they can to pull that out.
No doubt about it. And it's just been fun to watch the maturation of this team as the season has progressed. And, of course, it all comes to a head tomorrow night with the last regular season game against what some people think, the probably one of the premier powerhouse programs in the state.
I think if you look at it and even look at the rankings and the ratings, Mayfield is probably the best team in that regard that Caldwell County is going to face this year.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little better than Christian County. So that's why I really like this game at the end of the schedule, because we talked about Caldwell, at least on offense, not really being ready for that Christian County game to start the season. Well, I think with Mayfield now at the end of the season, the Caldwell offense is ready for this game. So I think this is going to be a good game to not only see how far the Tigers have come, but maybe to see, if you can look down the road a little bit, and coaches will tell you not to, but we're going to anyway. If you look at the playoff picture, it's probably, if the seeds hold out, Elizabethtown is going to come here for the regional championship game, as long as nothing strange happens. I think Mayfield will give us a good look at how Caldwell County matches up against Elizabethtown. So with a good effort against Mayfield, and I certainly don't think this is a game, there's no must win or anything going on this week. This is just a fun game.
Yeah,
you always want to win.
We can play loose.
Yeah, I mean
really.
There should be no pressure on anybody in this game. It's the regular season finale. Again, a chance for both teams to show how good they are and have one more preparation for the playoffs. And that's, everybody wants to win, and you'd like to win every game. That's always the goal. But you just want to see Caldwell County play well, put forth a good effort this week, and let's see where the team stands.
Yeah, and it's always, though, it's always a gorilla on our back, though.
Oh, yeah.
Mayfield. It's just, they're Mayfield. They're Mayfield. Yeah, they're Mayfield. Yeah, they're Mayfield, but we're Caldwell County.
Right.
That's the way I see it.
And back in the day when that was a district game, it was a bigger deal because there was a time when the only team that went to the playoffs was the district champion, and Caldwell County through the years had some incredibly talented football teams that lost close games to Mayfield and didn't get to go to the playoffs and show what they could do.
Exactly.
And that's unfortunate, but I'm afraid a lot of people, you get that stuck in your mind that Mayfield kept us out. Mayfield's this great power that can't be beat. And no, we've shown they can be beat. They're really good. Truth be told, Caldwell County is trying to emulate Mayfield. A lot of what Caldwell County does now is trying to be more like Mayfield.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Mayfield has this great program that I don't even know how many state championships they've won because, they just have this program that keeps kicking kids out there that are great football players. That's great. Caldwell County is trying to be that. I don't think we're on that level as far as the championships, but I think we're moving toward that level as far as, building the program and having that success year in and year out to where we can expect to be maybe not the best team in Class 3A or ranked number 1 every year, but we're right there in the top 10. We're right there, the top team in the district every year, right there getting to the regional championship game every year. Like I mentioned earlier, if you can just keep getting there and knocking on that door, eventually you'd like to think that, your time will come and you'll bust through that door and move on.
Yeah, and we've proven ourselves. We've won a few state championships ourselves.
Right. I mean, it's not like we're a bad program.
No.
There's a lot of teams that don't have 2 state championships.
That's exactly right.
But you always kind of look at that Mayfield program and say that's kind of where we're trying to get.
Yeah.
That's the effort we're making is to get there and be more like them and to have that sustainable success.
Exactly. Well, big shout out to our seniors. I thought we'd give those names. Number 24, Dylan Gray, and 32, Hunter Van Hooser, 35, Will Bashir, 40, Boyce Nichols, number 48 is Mac Engelbright, and 54 is Nick O'Brien, 67, Austin Hardrick, number 70, Adam Goodacre, and 72, Cole Baker, and number 80, Cameron Traylor. So good group of young men there graduating.
Again, I think they've had a special season, and I hope it keeps going as long as they can ride that out.
Yeah. So we encourage everybody to come out to Tiger Stadium. Yeah, the weather might be weather forecast might be bad, but if you got DNA on the field, we especially want you there. But even if you don't have DNA on the field,
right.
Come on out and support these guys. It's got to be a huge event. I mean, it's Mayfield. It's on TV. 2 8-1 teams.
Again, I think it's the game in Western Kentucky and one of the games in the state Friday night.
Yeah. You've seen I've seen a few tweets about it being the game the game around the state. Really, which you could definitely make that argument. Definitely Western Kentucky, no doubt about it.
And looking ahead, the playoffs start next week, and we finally know that it's going to be Hart County Hart County beat Adair County last week 31-15, so Hart gets to make the 2-hour trip from Munfordville to Princeton to play the Tigers.
And they've been here before?
They have been here before.
Yeah.
And Caldwell actually struggled with them a little bit early in the game before putting them away, but Hart County is the number 4 seed from over in the 2nd district. They're just 2-7 this year. The win over Adair County was their only win in the district. If you look at the computer rankings around the state, Hart County will be the weakest team Caldwell County faces this year. So you would like to think that maybe the Tigers get a breather in that first round. Again, I'm sure the coaches will go crazy hear me saying that because, you got to take everybody seriously, and you still have to come out and play. But Caldwell will be a heavy favorite in that game. And then you get past that, maybe keep everybody healthy, go into that next game. And then you're looking at Union County or LaRue County, one of those teams coming here in the second round. If you win that one, then Elizabethtown comes back, and we're starting to develop a little rivalry with those guys after seeing them in the playoffs. So,
and I really think these seniors that have, and maybe really the catch, that was here the last time Elizabethtown was here. That's burning in some of these kids' minds. And
you never want to lose on a Hail Mary late, especially when it looks like just a few seconds earlier you've pulled the game out of the fire with your own touchdown. So that was tough. And Caldwell certainly had its chances last year up at Elizabethtown.
Yes.
That game was probably a little closer than the final score indicated.
I think so.
E-Town returned a punt, I believe, and either a fumble or an interception for a touchdown late in the game to stretch it out.
A couple weird calls, too.
There were a couple of weird calls. Caldwell had some injuries, so a lot of things working against them. Otherwise, it was a pretty even game. So, again, keep knocking on that door and see if you can get through eventually.
Yeah, and it's been a great season football-wise as well. It'll be a big game tomorrow night, and we want everybody to come out and support our Tigers. It's senior night.
And one more thing we want to mention, and thanks to everyone who listens to our show because get comments like on a daily basis.
Yeah, and people are listening. We appreciate it.
Jim Rice is in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Went into the Hall of Fame in 2009, his last year of eligibility, so that's awesome.
Well, that's good to know.
Sometimes we shoot off the top of our heads, and, Cliff Clavin even gets one wrong every now and then.
Cliff Clavin can get somebody. He's probably been sitting too long at the
somebody
bar.
Somebody needs to check his facts every now and then.
There's Mr. Bob. How are you? All right, he's just going to wave. But, it's going to be a fun night at Tiger Stadium, and we want everybody to come out, cheer these guys on. It's going to be a big night. Bob and Dennis will have the call here on WPKY. Of course, we encourage you to check out the Times Leader Sports page Saturday morning. You guys will have a great coverage of the game as well.
I'm on Twitter at Todd Griffin 100, so be sure and check there. As always mentioned,
you'll have your pregame.
We'll have some Facebook Live stuff before the game and at halftime, and after the game. We hope if we don't get just waterlogged and can't do any of those things, but that's the game plan. And again, follow me on Twitter. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. There's always updates on there. Like I say, I like to throw a few things on there that
are different.
Never even make the paper. A few half-baked comments and observations that some are supposed to be funny that don't always come across as funny, but they were meant to be funny. So
how do you see it tomorrow night before you leave? I know. I saw the predictions in the paper, the picks.
Yeah, I went with Caldwell County, being a bit of a homer.
That's good.
I want to see how much the Tigers have improved since the first of the season. For some reason, we always play Mayfield close at Tiger Stadium. We usually go to Mayfield and put together a good first half and then can't finish it. But the games at home, we've been able to play them right down to the wire. So I would like to see another game like 2 years ago come down to the wire, and maybe this time it's Caldwell County making the play instead of Mayfield making the play. So
I'm going to go with you on that. I feel the same way. I think it's virtually a toss-up, and I think barring any kind of, like I said, I'm not going to worry about the weather because you just got to find ways to win.
Can't do anything about it.
That's right. And so I'm going to take our boys at home tomorrow night, and everybody needs to head on out and check them out.
And let's hope the weatherman has a big miss on the weather, and that it's going to be cold probably one way or another, but
yeah.
I can handle the cold, but the cold and the wet.
They got coffee and hot chocolate out there.
Yeah, well, I can warm up afterward.
There you go. Thanks, Todd. Another great show. Appreciate it. And that you've been listening to the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times Leader. Be sure you check out our Times Leader. Great sports coverage Saturday morning. Todd will have a complete look at not only the football game, but have results from tonight's volleyball game. Head on down to Katy tonight and cheer on our girls
A big
volleyball
game.
team. Big
it
game
doesn't
tonight.
get any bigger than that. Second region championship.
That's right. And we want blue and gold all on those stands. If you got something else going on, can't make it, check us out on WPKY. We're going to be on the air, bring you the coverage on the radio and streaming online at WPKYonline.com. So that's going to wrap up today for the Sideline Report. Appreciate you being with us, listening to your hometown radio station, WPKY, at 10:04. Have a good day, everybody.
Have you been a victim of debit or credit card fraud? Farmers Bank and Trust can help lessen your risk of getting taken advantage of. As our customer, you have exclusive access to a security feature in our app that will allow you to turn your debit card off while you're not